All right, we're live. So we are talking about lateral thinkers. If you are a lateral thinker, you're the person who approaches problems in an unexpected way. You are the pattern breaker. You see things from a different perspective and you don't follow the step by step logic to solving a problem. You like to look at things from a different way. And sometimes it's not even about what you like, it's just literally the way that your brain works, is how it operates. Yes, okay. I had to make sure I didn't sound like a chipmunk, y'all. So, we are talking about creative thinking styles, and today's creative thinking style that we're focusing on is the lateral thinker. So, last week I did a case study of a friend of mine who is also a lateral thinker. And I did a breakdown of his content, the different things that he talks about, and I showed how he embodies the lateral thinker in his content. And I also gave a couple of tips on how he can monetize it and even how he could make his content even more cohesive so that the way that his creativity functions can all be in harmony. So, if you're interested in seeing how a lateral thinker plays out in a real life scenario, make sure you go and check out the video. But today I am going to really get to the details, like the nitty gritty of what a lateral thinker is. This is the first breakdown in the series that I'm doing on creative thinking styles. There are 5 creative thinking styles, and I have got these based off of a thesis done by Adam Jorlin. It is a thesis I found randomly one day. I was doing some research on creative thinking. I just got curious and I ended up finding out that there are 5 different creative thinking styles. And so I'm breaking these down not only because I think that they're cool, but because I feel like it gives people even more empowerment and understanding who they are, how their brain functions, where their strengths lie as a creative, where they can use some support or some help, or how they can collaborate with creators who think differently than they do and can come together to really push ideas forward, to create those creative businesses, to create content that attracts the right people, all the things that we're striving to do as creatives in this space who are trying to monetize their creativity or who are already monetizing their creativity. And I'm excited because the more that I dive into this topic, the more I'm realizing, wow, I'm seeing this play out in the way that people show up. And so, one thing that's important about the creative thinking styles before I get into the lateral thinker is that this is not a fixed mindset. The way that you think or the way that you tend to gravitate towards thinking or your most dominant thinking style, that's the way I want to say it, is something that is not necessarily rigid. You can flex between the different creative thinking styles and you can develop each of these creative thinking styles if you find that there's one that you want to get into more. But what this series is meant to do is to show you where your strengths lie. I would almost kind of compare it to your zone of genius. This is your genius as a creative. And this is where no matter which ones you choose to adopt or which ones you choose to work on and to develop, this is going to be the one that you tend to lean in the most. And it's probably going to be the one that's the strongest and it's going to really carry you in the direction that you are striving towards as a creative. So, without further ado, we're going to get into the lateral thinker. So if you see me looking down, I have all the notes for the creative thinker. I am going to take these and create blog posts for you to go back through and read them and really just like digest it, take it in, especially if you found that the one that I'm talking about is your creative thinking style. So let's sit back and learn all about the lateral thinker. So, like I mentioned earlier, the lateral thinker is the person who is going to be the pattern breaker. You think outside of the box and it's almost disruptive and even a little bit provocative, it gets the people going. Yes, that's the way that your brain works, and it's not even something that you're intending to do naturally, or you're intending to do. Like, you're not forcing it, but you just tend to look at things in a different way. So if there's something that people tend to do and there's a step by step, like the logical way that people do things, your natural inclination is going to be, well, what if we looked at it like this? Or what if we approached it from this angle? And you're likely going to be the person who brings a fresh take and a perspective that the people around you maybe didn't consider before. And that's one of your greatest strengths and one of the biggest assets of a lateral thinker, and their ability to take things that don't seem to make sense together and bring meaning to them in a way where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't see the connection there. So, creative thinkers, lateral thinkers, are really the ones who can reveal hidden possibilities. So, one of the things that you'll find as I go through this series, we have the lateral thinker, which is what we're talking about today, but there is also the divergent thinker. Divergent thinkers and lateral thinkers on the surface may appear very similar, but I want to start off by breaking down the differences between a divergent thinker and a lateral thinker so that you can see where the difference lies. So, one of the biggest thing with a divergent thinker is that a divergent thinker is a person who is a like idea generator. So they're like, they thrive with possibilities. So they like to take as much as they can, as many things as possible, so that they can explore all of their options, right? The difference between that and the lateral thinker is that a lateral thinker is not necessarily weighing all of their options. You're not looking at all the different pieces and all the different possibilities. You're noticing the thing that is a little different. You're noticing where, oh, we could shift this way, or we could approach this way. And so it's really about noticing hidden possibilities as opposed to exploring all of your options. And so we'll go into the divergent thinker, and we'll give the divergent its full blown episode. I don't want to take up the lateral thinker's time today with that, but I wanted to make sure that I brought that key distinction because those are going to help you to really differentiate between the two. Okay, I feel like I might be divergent, but really what I'm doing is seeing things from a new angle and finding these different possibilities and approaches to solving this problem, right? So, they are very complementary, and there are benefits to having both of them in the same space on the same team, but their approach to problem solving and creativity is going to be slightly different. Okay. And I will have the full breakdown of all the different points and the ways that they differ on the blog post when I get it posted. So you can go through and you can read all the differences between it. But that's what I want you to take from this so far. So I when I was researching creative thinking, I felt like lateral thinkers, when I think about lateral thinkers, the people that I know that are lateral thinkers anyway, I feel like they're the ones that can probably be misunderstood. Let's put it that way. Like, I feel like they're the ones that can tend to be misunderstood. And it's not necessarily because they are trying to be contrarians or that they're trying to be difficult, but oftentimes you just see a way that you're like, wait, why aren't we doing it like this? Or I had this thought, and what do you think about that? Or what if instead of doing, ABC, what if we did ABDC, and what if we took a different route to solve it? And there can I feel like there can be some friction that comes up with the lateral thinker, especially in situations where you are around people who do not think like you. and who do not operate the way that you do or tend to lean into that. Like you may find that you encounter a lot of people who like to follow the rules. They like to go step by step. They like to just take what is given to them and work with what they got instead of noticing or paying attention to some of the things that they may not see as a possibility. And one thing that I hope that'll come to my mind as I'm talking through this is I would really love to give an example of that. But maybe I'll leave the case study as the example of what that looks like in action. And I won't think too far into it. But I wanted to share that because with all of the thinking styles, with all the creative thinking styles, I believe that there is a point or an area where you might feel like you don't fit in, or there's an area to you or an aspect to your way of thinking that can rub some people the wrong way, or it can create a persona or an image of you that is not necessarily who you are or represents who you are. So I want to encourage you and really help you to see how beautiful your brain is and the way that you approach creativity, because it is something that we desperately, desperately need in this world, especially when it comes to creativity and being able to create the solutions that we need. And sometimes where one thing that we desperately need is people who can break the patterns, because the patterns that we have been in lately, garbage. But let's get into some of the core features of the lateral thinker. So the first thing of a lateral thinker is lateral thinkers are pattern breakers. So you deliberately you choose to interrupt the like the traditional way of thinking or the mental patterns. And so you like to look at things and be counterintuitive, or just reframe your ideas, ideologies, or techniques, or your way of thinking, or even using statements that are provocative, or that might like poke people or like rub people a little differently, because you have this like resistance to predictability. You know what I mean? Like you like the same old that don't work for you. You're like, I need something different. I need something fresh. I need something new. And while it is, I feel like it is deliberate, but I feel like it's also innate. Like you need this. You need to have things shaken up. You need to be able to look at things from a different perspective, because that's where your creativity really thrives, right? So, number one, pattern breaking. Number two is non sequential insight, which is a fancy way of saying that you just don't follow the step by step of anything, really. Like you don't have to go, this is step one, step two, step three. Sometimes you have to jump around to find your way, or you jump around because you don't feel like you have to do it in order. Like, why do we have to do it in this order? Why do we even need step two? Step two is not helpful anymore, or it's no longer relevant, or what would happen, or how could we get some different results if we decided that we're not going to follow this? So non-sequential thought, which is really dope because it also gives you new insight, and it also gives you new perspectives that, again, most people who are not lateral thinkers are tapping into their lateral thinking are going to recognize. The other thing is productive disruption. Productive disruption. This one is one of my favorite ones because I think that I can be a lateral thinker at times. It's not my top, but I think that I definitely be like, well, let's throw a wrench in that real fast. Let's see what happens if we do that. And so it gives you a different, like a way to see how you can change the way that a problem is framed and solve it from a different perspective, and even bringing in some different interpretations and seeing how we could come up with a different solution. And so you will intentionally put things in place, or drop a little, I won't say that word, but drop a little, disruptor in there and see what we can come up with or what solution can arise because of that. So, number 3, productive disruption. And number 4 is exploring the least likely path. And I think that this is the one that will probably make you feel the most I guess like alone, or maybe just like it make you more of a loner, or somebody who does a lot of things solo, because you're gonna go a different path than what most people are gonna find or what most people are gonna follow, because you're motivated and you're driven by new, in finding and discovering hidden things and seeing how, if I know everybody is going in this direction and taking this route, but what if instead of, doing the traditional 4 years of college, what if instead I went and did a gap year or did like a fun employment? I feel like whoever came up with the concept of fun employment was probably a lateral thinker, because if the path that everybody is telling you to go on doesn't make sense to you, or if you are noticing that it's presenting a problem, then you're going to go in a route that's different. And as I'm talking through this, I'm like thinking of all the people that I know that do this and that function this way. And when you get to talk to them, they really have a really interesting and just like a cool way of approaching life. Sometimes it might come across a little weird to people, but or bizarre, but again, you're motivated by new and disrupting and finding the things that most people are not recognizing or catching on to. And then the last thing that I want to emphasize once again is that lateral thinking is not a fixed mindset. So it is a skill that you can learn, but it will take you being intentional about doing something different or choosing to go a different path. And I think that even something as simple as like taking a different way home from work, or choosing to and choose, instead of doing the same routine, like taking shower, you take a shower every day at night, choosing to take showers in the morning and see what happens. Like small things like that. Or choosing to wear your hair instead of, maybe you typically do a side part, let's see what a middle part looks like today. Like just bringing different like disruptors into your routine so that you can give yourself a fresh perspective, a fresh take on everyday things, everyday habits. And so those are the five characteristics or core features of lateral thinking. So I'll go through them one more time. The core features are pattern breaking, non-sequential insight, productive disruption, exploring the least likely path, and it is a learnable skill. So everyone has the capability as a creative to have a lateral way of thinking, to be more disruptive and pattern breaking. But if you are naturally a lateral thinker, then this is something that you tend to go for most often. Okay. So let's get into the way that your mind works. So, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist. I have not studied the brain, none of that. These are all things that I have learned from the studies that I'm doing on these. So, if you are interested in learning more about it, then I will definitely be dropping the resources that I went to so that you can dig a little bit deeper. And there's actually a few books that I found on lateral thinkers and divergent thinkers that you may really be interested in as it pertains to creativity and problem solving. So I'll drop those if what I'm saying is really starting to pique your interest. Okay. So the first thing is a resistance to fixed patterns. So your brain, like I said, you are wired. You're wired naturally. Your natural inclination is to resist fixed patterns. So you probably are somebody that doesn't do well with a routine that is exactly the same every single day. And you might end up having to just like do something different just because you need that shift or that break or that little jar to keep you excited, to keep you fresh, to keep you creative. Another thing that you do really well is find overlooked connections. So you're probably the person who notices things and picks up on things that most people are not really tripping off of. And so like you probably are good at identifying like relationships or patterns that most people aren't picking up on. You might even be somebody who's really good at recognizing things like algorithms, or even something like trading, where you have to look at the stocks and noticing the trends in the market. So you might naturally gravitate towards those things because you can notice those connections and those correlations. The next thing that is a part of your function in your brain is meaning driven thinking, which means that you are motivated by things having a meaning for you. Like you find the symbolism in things. Things have to the things You don't just do things just because, like, there's a deeper meaning and connection to your ideas. And so you really value depth over surface level conversations or surface level research. And you really like to think like conceptually, or even like you may be into things like philosophy and just getting deeply entrenched and into a topic because you like to really understand it from a deeper level and not just like spread out across multiple disciplines. So the last thing is movement over judgment. And so this is a fancy way of saying that you have to be like going, like you are a person who likes to try things and move and see and experiment. There's this book that I actually plan on reading soon. I've heard like some overviews of it, and just like some summaries. But hey, Adrian. Hi. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Where it's called Tiny Experiments. And the premise of it is basically having the perception of a scientist when it comes to your everyday life. And so instead of being overly critical of your choices or your actions or even the results of the things that you try, you approach it as you're gathering data, you're gathering research, you're researching and you're getting intel, and you are a very curious person. And so you have this way of needing to take action and see how things go, and it really develops this momentum that is very beneficial for you because you're just doing things and you're learning as you go, and you're not being too critical or hard on your ideas. You just move on to the next thing or build on it with the information that you get from it. So those are some of the highlights of how your brain works as a lateral thinker. So, if you're just coming in, Adrian, I see, I don't know how long you've been here, but we are talking about lateral thinkers. It is one of the five creative thinking styles. I introduced this a few weeks ago. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. So, I'll create a playlist so that you can go through and you can watch everything from the beginning. This is the third video in the series, and I'm doing a breakdown on the lateral thinker. And so we're about to get into the creative rhythm because it's cool to learn like who you are and how your brain works. But now we're going to get to see how it plays out with your creativity. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit about what this looks like, even with your content, with your creative expression, however you choose to express your creativity and monetize your creativity. I won't get into monetization because that'd be very broad. However, I will give you some things that can hopefully get your mind going so that you can think about what this looks like to really tap into your lateral thinker style if this is who you are. So, creative rhythm. Lateral thinkers tend to thrive when their process includes space for exploration. So let's say that you get an idea or a concept in your mind. You thrive when you are given the space to really explore it. Like I said, exploring, being like a scientist and just trying things and allowing your curiosity to take you where it needs to take you, wherever the path leads you. So constraints can feel rigid to you, especially if you try to make your creativity, or not your creativity, your curiosity, have to make sense, or you have to make it something important too soon, or give it structure too soon. So you really do need the space to explore and allow it to form naturally, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about the momentum and the movement. Your ideas, your work is best when your ideas seem too ordinary and you need a new angle. So when it starts to get like, when your stuff starts to feel like it's getting too stale, you need to have a new angle or a new approach to it. And this is really useful, especially if you are in an area or in an industry where you've been creating content for a while on a particular topic, and you want to keep talking about the topic, but you're not feeling as connected to it anymore. So being able to explore it and approach it from a different perspective is very, very beneficial for you. So this is a part of your rhythm. So when things start to feel a little stale and you need something, try approaching it from a new angle. Um, when conversations lack depth or dimension, that's like that'll take you completely out of it. So you need to have that depth. And if you're finding that you're not getting it, then you may need to explore different hobbies or different things. There, go into something completely different, and or just have some conversations with some people, different people, or people who are outside of your normal, everyday interaction, so that you can tap into some new conversation, some new depth, because that's something that's very important for you. And then sometimes your projects are going to require a fresh set of eyes, or somebody that just has a different perspective than you, because again, you can get really like deep and entrenched in the things that you're doing. And so it's helpful for you to have somebody who can come in and look at it from different perspective, because of then that brings in like that disruptive, that pattern breaking, or those hidden connections that you really thrive on. So for you, the underlying question isn't what is the answer, but it's what might this mean if it was viewed differently? So what might happen? What might we discover if we start to look at this from a different perspective? That's like your mantra. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. There's definitely some aspects to lateral thinkers that I definitely connect to. Like that deep thinking is definitely a big one for me. So, all right, let's get into the motivations and internal drivers. Okay. So, this is what lateral thinkers are motivated by. They're motivated by uncovering deeper or hidden layers of a topic. They are motivated by adding nuance or contextual understanding, discovering unexpected relationships, reframing problems rather than applying more effort, which is like really dope, because maybe it's not about working harder, but it's literally just about working smarter or working different. And then you're also motivated by expanding insight or meaning through perspective shifts. And so this can be an internal thing, or this can also be something that you give to the world. So interactions with you, your content, the things that you create are all motivated by these different things. So that deepness, finding hidden layers, bringing a different perspective, trying different avenues and methods to solving a problem, and then expanding people's minds. And that's probably one that is like a really big one for you, because that's what really makes you light up. That's what makes you excited, when you're able to see things from a different space, a different perspective, a different light, and bring something to add to your repertoire. To your brain, make your brain even more expansive. And so looking at my notes here, I was as a lateral thinker, I think I mentioned this before earlier. If I didn't mention it in this video, I talked about it in the last video, but you are a synthesizer. And so you love being able to bring different things together, especially things that don't make sense, integrating unexpected um, pieces of information and finding the commonality in those things, and all of that again is bringing a fresh perspective and a take to things and really bringing meaning to it. And so I'm trying my best not to repeat too much of what I said in the last video that I did for the case study. But really, y'all, go check out the case study because this is just giving you an overview of what a lateral thinker is overall. The case studies are going to show you what a lateral thinker or what each thinking style looks like in action. So make sure you go and check it out so you can see the correlation and the connection between, well, how I'm describing a lateral thinker and how my friend who I did the case study on presents lateral thinking, and it's and bringing in his personality, his interest, and his flavor to it. So let's talk about your strengths, okay? Because you got some natural strengths as a lateral thinker. Your first strength is pattern recognition. Okay, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Insight generation. So you're able to again capture unexpected things and understanding, gather unexpected understanding and information from a problem or just from concepts in general that really like brings a perspective shift. You transform the meaning of things. And like that might sound really like, ooh, grand, but that's what you're doing, especially when you think about the fact that you are bringing a different perspective or a different way of understanding something or approaching something or even catching things that people might tend to overlook, and you're transforming and bringing new life and a new meaning to a thing, an idea, a concept, etc. Another one of your strengths is depth of storytelling or explanation. Okay. You are masterful at really bringing the connection and the understanding and the context to an idea. And so whether you do that as a, maybe you're more dramatic, or maybe you're more, I find that a lot of lateral thinkers tend to also have like natural comedic tendencies, like they're probably like naturally funny. So maybe you do that by being funny and catching unexpected things or catching nuances that people might overlook, right? So you are able to really bring that depth and that understanding to what it is you're talking about. And then the last strength that you have, one of your natural strengths, is high quality decisions. So because you're able to consider so many different angles, you are able to come up with really great decisions because you're not moving off of impulse. You're moving based off of gathering different pieces of information or considering different scenarios, which allows you to which allows you to come up with really dope decisions. So what do y'all think about those? Hey, this Andrea, so far it sounds like me, but I'll watch the case studies. Dope. Okay. Yes, definitely let me know. Let me know in that video if it sounds like you. So those are your natural strengths. I'm gonna go through them one more time. And I want to know who else feels like they are a lateral thinker. So, your natural strengths: pattern recognition, insight generation, meaning transformation, depth of storytelling or explanation, and high quality decisions. Okay. And from the sounds of these strengths, you sound like a pretty dope person to me. Okay. You sound like somebody I want to be around. All right. So, with the strengths, we also have to talk about the challenges or the shadow patterns. I don't typically use that terminology, but I do see how it's like, there's a light and then there's a darkness. So Here are some of the things that you want to look out for or to understand about yourself if you are a lateral thinker. So, the first thing is over contextualizing. So, because you can see the complexities of things, you can see them very clearly, you can run the risk of you're saying too much. Okay. Like you might be somebody who tends to over explain things and maybe be adding too much information, too many details. Like you're giving people too much too fast. And so that's one of the ones that you want to be aware of and learn how to, kind of like scale it back or simplify things so that people can really take in what it is that you're expressing. The next thing that can be a challenge for you is slow execution. All right. Slow execution. And if any of these sound like just put up the church finger. Just be like, it's me. It's all right. It's all right. We all got our shadows. Okay. So slow execution. And this is driven by your desire for clarity. And so it'll be very beneficial for you, especially because earlier I mentioned how important the movement is. Movement creates the momentum that lateral thinkers thrive off of. So you want to be careful about their desire for understanding things and even being very, you want to maybe have a thorough understanding of a concept, but there is a lot of beauty in not having all of the answers. So slow execution. The next one is difficulty simplifying, which goes into over contextualizing. So, and this one, you may hesitate to share your ideas because they don't feel fully integrated yet, right? Like it doesn't feel like second nature to you just yet. So you want to be mindful of that and know that, again, like I said with the first one, it's okay to not have the full understanding or all the information up front. So practicing sharing what you know, what you can, and then allowing the understanding to naturally come as you need it to. The next one is analysis drift. And this is basically just kind of like having like your mind in a loop. So maybe you have an idea, something that you're thinking about, you're reflecting on. I would compare this to ruminating, and not necessarily in a negative way, but maybe you just have an idea that's in your head. And instead of actually taking action on it, you're kind of just like going over it again and again and again and again. And what about this? And what about this? And then eventually you find yourself like in this cycle where you're kind of going back around the same thing because the only way to get out of that loop is to execute it. You got to do some things so that you can gather more information and understanding. So, analysis drift. And then the last one is undervaluing your insight. And this one is a big one, y'all. This is a big one because earlier in this video, I mentioned that I feel that a lot of lateral thinkers may feel misunderstood and may even feel like they are okay, misunderstood. But here's what I mean by that: misunderstood in the sense that people may see you as a contrarian or a disruptor, or you are bringing up things just to cause problems, right? Or you're never content, you're always debating, or you're always trying to come up with a different way of doing things, right? Like these are all things that you may have heard before. And so because of that, that has a way of making you start to devalue or undervalue your insight because of it. And so you may not realize how valuable and how necessary having people who can recognize the things that you do and the things that you can capture, how critical that is for us to have people that do that, especially the people that lean towards that naturally. So that's another one that you probably have, that probably out of all of them, that probably might be one of your biggest ones, is just you're not valuing your insight at the level that you should be. You may not recognize how valuable it is to have people that can do that. Yeah. You said, OMG, why is this me? Yes, so those are your challenges. I'll go over them one more time. So your challenges as a lateral thinker, over contextualizing, slow execution, difficulty simplifying, analysis drift, and undervaluing your insight. Okay. So now let's get into some of the fun parts. Let's talk about how we can apply this. So these are going to be applications either in your in your creative expression, or just some strategies that are might be beneficial for you. So because you're a lateral thinker, you're especially important for um something called foresight work. So basically being able to push an idea forward, right? So being able to think, okay, what can we possibly move towards in the future? You might kind of find yourself like almost like futuristic thinking. So foresight work, long-term strategies, these are all things that are where your skills are going to be important, your natural creative thinking style. And so, or in areas where you can bring a pattern disruption, challenging assumptions, and just shifting the way that people think, like the way that people naturally think or approach things, bringing shifts to that, because those are your strengths. So you excel in making sense of things and being able to like synthesize and bring different concepts together in an unexpected way. You are especially good at noticing blind spots, or even catching on to things that people aren't saying or assumptions that are made. You are good at reframing complex problems, interpreting emerging signals, which basically means like catching it before it happens, or noticing trends. And then you are also good at creating spaces where we can shift the narrative and explore new possibilities. Yeah, definitely a disruptor. Okay. So your strength is not in generating a bunch of ideas. Again, I want to make sure that we understand that you're not a divergent thinker. Divergent thinkers are the idea generators, but you are the one that can create or come up with the idea that can change the direction and that can bring unexpected change that we most likely need to consider. Okay? So, your ideal creative environment and process. Y'all ready for it? You're loving this? Yay, I'm glad. Y'all, thank you. I see the likes. Thank you for liking the live. Continue to heart it. All of that helps and pushing it out to more viewers. I appreciate y'all. I'm glad that you're enjoying this. And it makes me excited that you're hearing yourself in what I'm sharing. So, all right, let's get into your creative environment. So, the environments that you would benefit from as a lateral thinker is unstructured or low pressure time for reflection, because again you are a deep thinker, so you need to be able to have space that is not rigid and that allows you to explore. You need to have the freedom talking about exploration, freedom to explore new angles. You need to have conversations that allow you to process deeply rather than just talking quickly, right? Like you value depth over speed. And then you need written or visual space to reorganize your ideas. So, literally, like the mind maps, the sticky notes in different places, a whiteboard with different, the diagrams, or just being able to like literally like kind of almost like rearrange things so that you can see it from a different thing, or get it out of your head so you can look at it and notice the patterns that you might miss. So those are environments that are going to be beneficial for you. And you might find yourself naturally leaning towards those from time to time. But I would encourage you, if you don't already do it intentionally, to make time or create a space where you can do that intentionally. So Some effective processes is that you can use to process your ideas is writing multiple interpretations of the same situation, finding the underlying assumptions, using metaphors or frameworks for comparison. And you probably naturally do this anyway. You might talk in metaphors or creating frameworks to explain your ideas. Intellectual wandering, which is basically exploring your ideas, seeing where it takes you, and then coming back to us after you've put them together in a way that makes sense for you to explain it to us. And then having conversations with people that challenge you, which is going to be really key. So, talking to people that challenge you and that expand your perspective. Okay. Yes, I love the way you think, Jada, and what you present. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate y'all. Okay, so let's talk about collaboration. So one of my goals with talking about the creative thinking styles is not only for you to understand yourself individually, but my goal, my hope is that understanding yourself will also help you to know how to collaborate with others, because remember there's 5 creative thinking styles, and while you may not be dominant in all of them, somebody's dominant in the ones that you are not. And so when we understand ourselves individually as creatives, that makes us even more powerful in collaboration with others. So let's talk about what your collaboration style looks like and what type of thinkers you should consider collaborating with as a lateral thinker. So here's what you offer as a lateral thinker. As a reminder, you bring insight, you bring meaning, and you bring depth. Okay. You are somebody who clarifies why something matters and how the elements connect. Okay. Remember the word synthesizer. You're a synthesizer. So you're able to bring things together. This is what you need. You need time, you need space, and you need intellectual freedom. So those are things that's an environment that is absolutely necessary for you to have. And so if you don't have those spaces, you're probably going to find yourself really struggling in a space or in an environment where you're trying to collaborate and that doesn't exist. Okay. So some strong partners for you to have are divergent thinkers, and we'll talk about divergent thinkers in the series so you'll know exactly why a divergent thinker is good for you. But just to give you an idea, divergent thinkers, they are good at rapid idea generation. So they're good at coming up with things very quickly on the spot, which is great for you because then you're able to find the connections, right? They supply coherence. They bring the ideas, they bring all the stuff, all the ideas, and then you're able to make it make sense and bring meaning to it and synthesize it. So the second thinker that will be an ideal collaborator for you would be inspirational thinkers. So they bring emotional insight, and you bring the conceptual interpretation, right? So they're the ones that are like almost kind of like they like get these like I be trying to avoid saying the word download, but that's the best way to describe it right now. So they can bring like the downloads, like that burst, and then you are able to take what they're bringing, again, similar to the divergent thinkers, but inspirational thinkers don't move as rapidly. Theirs is more like, what about this? Like it kind of like comes to them just like almost supernaturally. So yeah, and then you're able to make meaning of their ideas. So divergent thinkers, inspirational thinkers are going to be strong collaborative partners for you. Okay, I'm looking at the comments now. Yes, ready. I love the okay, saw that. I create frameworks all the time. Um, yes, I did create a quiz for this, Adrian. I did create a quiz. I will tell you a little bit about that towards the end. So don't let me forget. Okay. So, some of the potential tensions. So, we talked about the collaborators, but we also got to talk about what might happen because, these are relationships we're talking about. So, there may be some differences in pace, especially with the inspirational thinkers. Because, again, inspirational thinkers are not the rapid type of person. So you do have to have some you may have to have some patience with that, or and just learn how to balance that. But then the same can be true for the divergent thinker. They may move a little faster than you, or a lot faster than you, and because you need depth and time and space, you have to be mindful of how to balance that and come to a compromise that you can have a strong collaboration. Divergent thinkers, they favor the quick movement. You need deeper understanding. And then when it comes to inspirational, and you and an inspirational thinker, there may be some differences in terms of like clarity, and even having like an understanding before you can move forward. One thing about inspirational thinkers is that where you are similar is that you're both motivated by there being a deep meaning. So that's a connection that you'll have. But you may find that inspirational thinkers might be willing to take the next step maybe a little bit sooner than you, because you might find yourself, in your loop or in your cycle. So again, these are just some things to think about and to recognize and learn how to maneuver through the tensions. Okay. So, all right. Our next thing, this is going to be a shorter one, but here are some things, some ideas that you can mull over in terms of what this looks like when it comes to your content or your content style. So, you may enjoy reflective or analytical writing. And I would even say, like, considering like video essays, especially if you prefer to speak over writing, but you still want to be able to have it be depth. You want to have it have some meat to it. Reframing, like conceptual reframing. So again, bringing like a counter idea, or a counterintuitive idea rather, to something that a lot of people are talking about. Unpacking different narratives and even things that people that's commonly believed, and really breaking it down, and giving us the opportunity to see, where did this come from? Do we really agree with this? Things like that. Breaking down different ideas and giving a different angle to it, or a different perspective to it. And then another one, which is going to be like probably one of like your, like, this is going to be your main one. This might be the one you might lean to the most, but being able to mm, synthesize different disciplines, different ideas, and bringing them together in a way that makes sense. And so, on the surface, like I said earlier, it may feel like you are all over the place. But again, one of your strengths is being able to make meaning of different things and bring it together in a way where it makes sense for people. So, considering what that looks like and how you can bring those and bridge those things together. So, one thing that you're probably going to lean towards as well, you might naturally lean towards long form content. That does not mean that you can't do short form content, but even your short form content might be on the longer end, right? Like you're not the 15-30 second video person. You couldn't, it might make you freak out to even try to think about how to make your ideas make sense in 15 seconds, right? So it doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing it, but it just might not be your natural leaning. And I would suggest that if it's not, I would lean into long form first, whether that is video or written, and then find how you can break that down into short form. So I would suggest going long form first if you do need to create short form content. So let's talk a little bit about your role in the future and what you bring to the table when it comes to that. So you are somebody who is going to help us to destabilize or to break down automatic assumptions and things, especially if you think about things like this. These are going to be like big, pretty major topics, but I feel like lateral thinkers were very instrumental in things like women's rights where the natural assumption at that time was that women don't vote, women don't leave the house, but a lateral thinker, I bet you was a lateral thinker, was like, why? Why are we making that assumption? Why are we assuming X, Y, and Z and pushing that forward? So think about like the strength, like we've talked about it on a content level and we talked about it on an individual level, but I really want you to think about what type of thinking and what your way of thinking could bring to the world if you really tap into it and hone it. Another thing that you bring to the future and future solutions is opening alternative pathways and finding new ways of doing things, exposing overlooked drivers or signals, trends, things that people are not paying attention to. You disrupt linear projections, even like something that maybe maybe there's something that's going on that we're just assuming is just the norm and that's just the way things have to be. You can bring a different way, you can disrupt those patterns, that projection, and bring a different path, a different way of doing those things. And then you are able to bring some different like more imagination to the way that we work, to the way that we create, to the way that we function in society. So these are the things that you are particularly strong at and that are possible gifts that you can bring to the world with your creativity. So you're particularly strong in interpretation, reframing, mapping, and then early stage creation. So this is something that I'm I really would like to get into one day, where my mind is going with the creative thinking styles beyond understanding it individually. Uh and your role even when it comes to like working together. So I'm hoping that it'll naturally come up in the series. So I won't go too far into that right now, but what I do want to say is that to help you to just think about what that might look like right now, you as a lateral thinker are very instrumental in the early stages of a project, right? Of something that whatever you're creating, you are instrumental in the early stages of it because it's important for us to not only have a lot of ideas to work with, a lot of possibilities, which is the divergent thinker, but we also need people who can notice a different way of doing it, a different path, and break up the pattern so that the way that we go, the route that we take with this project, this endeavor, is one that is fresh and is new and can produce different results. Okay, so I'm hoping that that makes sense. Oh, you about to record your Thank you for stopping by, Rev. Okay, so let's bring this all together, y'all. We are at the end of the lateral thinker breakdown. Um, so let's bring this all together. Let's synthesize this. So, as a lateral thinker, you are not to the person that's producing a bunch of ideas, but you're transforming how those ideas are understood. You naturally notice the assumptions, you reconfigure and you shift, you transform the meaning of things, and you reveal underlying structures, trends, shapes, and decisions that help us to come up with fresh takes on conversations, on ways of doing things, on projects, on creative endeavors. You bring something different to the table, and so you contribute originality through your depth, your connection, and your new perspective. And that is what makes you not only unique, but it also makes you critical when it comes to the creative world. So if you are a lateral thinker, I want to thank you for not only taking the time to really understand yourself a little bit more by watching this video, but I also want to thank you for what you bring and what you contribute, especially if that's not something that you're used to hearing. If that's not something that you're used to receiving from people, I want to let you know that your disruptive nature, your different way of thinking, your depth, your unique way of approaching things, your originality is so so appreciated. So I hope that you take this and really tap into it. And I have so much more that I would love to share on like what it looks like as content strategy, business ideas as a lateral thinker. However, I cannot tell you that generally. That's something that I would have to be able to really learn what your not only your dominant thinking style is if you're a lateral thinker and that's your dominant, but I also would need to know what your secondary is, as well as what you do. What are you interested in? What are the different areas that you tap into? And being able to help you take those things and create different business ideas with it, to create content with it, to learn how to monetize your creativity. And those are all things that I can help you do with the creative thinking style profile. I didn't forget, Adrian. The creative thinking style profile is the custom GPT that I created, where the quiz that helps you determine your creative thinking style is housed, but it also has the capability of answering so many more of your creative questions, your business questions, and your content questions, as well as some other things that I haven't even played around with yet. But I want to be able to create something that really helps you like you work through these ideas and these concepts. And so if that's something that you are interested in, you can just type the word, what word should we use? Type creative thinking, type the phrase creative thinking, and I'll reach out to you personally and I'll give you a little bit more information on that and what that looks like to get access to it. Currently, the only way that you have access to it is by joining the Selling Without Selling Out workshop and implementation lab, which is available in my bio, or it's not bio over here on YouTube. What's it called over here? If you go to my channel, the link that goes to my page, you can check it out there as well. But if you're not interested in learning how to sell your thing just yet, but you do want to take that quiz with me, it's a guided quiz, then just type that in the chat and I will reach out to you and I'll give you more information on that. The reason why I don't have it open publicly yet is because it's it's helpful for it to be a guided experience. And as I do the quizzes with people, I've done two of them already. When I go through it, I'm able to pick up on certain things that I can ask the GPT, and it gives you even more customized answers. And so when you're done, not only will you know your dominant thinking style, you'll also know your secondary thinking style. You'll leave with a overview of what those mean, as long with what that means for your content style, which platforms would be best suited for your thinking styles, and also different business ideas or ways that you can take what you are already doing and improve on it so that you can start to monetize those things. So all of that's in there. And it's been really cool. Like I said, I've done a few of them. I will post one of them I'll post one of them one of these days. I can't guarantee that it's going to happen soon. I have to go and see where that fits in my calendar, but I will share it so that you can see for yourself how cool it is to just watch somebody walk through this process and then get all of these answers. They have been spot on every single time. My combination of thinking style is inspirational, that's my dominant, and then my secondary is actually a systems thinker. So it makes sense that I would create a quiz because that's the way my brain works. So if you are a lateral thinker, then I'm one of the people that you probably need to be collaborating with anyway. So look at that. Look at that. So yeah, like I said, type in creative thinking and I will get you more information on how to get access to the quiz. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let me see. Y'all been chatting it up. Thank you for helping me figure me out. My pleasure. Creative thinking, definitely interested. It would be interesting for my team to do it as well. Curious if they fall in the collaborators portion. That is something that I would really love to find out. No, no, Bookie. Go eat. That's something I would really love to figure out because my original thought when I did this was to not only understand myself, but like I said, find the ideal collaborators that would fit my thinking style so that we could be like a power team. And so what likely is what I my guess is that they probably you probably are complementary, but some of them you may have the same thinking style as them. Like me and Kayla, we have the exact same thinking style. Literally the exact same. Dominant is inspirational, her secondary is systems. And so I was like, no wonder we like are like this because we have the same thinking style. So they may end up being similar ones, and that would still be cool because then you can maybe find where the where the gaps are and who you may need on your team. So I feel like it would be a really great resource for people who are looking to bring some people on to work with them, bring in some team members. And as much as we ask people about their different skills and what their education is and all of those things when it comes to an interview, how dope would it be to find people who also like creatively make sense together, and that makes the collaboration even more powerful. Or maybe it'll show you that maybe this isn't the best fit, or maybe at minimum it helps you identify where's the tension at and how do we navigate the tension now that we understand how I think and how you think, so that we can better work together. So I feel like it's going to be really cool for all of that. So as I dive into these and I break these down, I really would love to see how they come together and how they work together. So I'm confident that that'll all unfold as I continue on this journey. So yeah, that's it, y'all. That's it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'll be back. I want to say, I think that I'll actually be back on Thursday. So Thursday, I will be doing another case study, and bless you, we'll be breaking down a systems thinker. And this is gonna be, I don't know how this is going, it's gonna be a sexy breakdown, y'all. I don't even know how else to say it. It's gonna make systems so sexy. So I'm gonna be doing the case study on another friend of mine who I already know is a systems thinker. I think that I actually know her combination, but I'm going to focus on the systems thinking because I know that is like most likely her dominant one. And so I'll do a case study on hers. And hers is going to be fun because it'll be systems and it'll also be personal branding. So it's gonna be so cool. It's gonna be so cool. I can't wait. I gotta think about what my outfit's gonna be. I feel like I need to wear a fur. So it's gonna probably be like really fabulous. I might have like a nice drink, you know. I have to have it in view of the camera. I have a nice little drink. It might be a little, it won't be it can't be a nighttime situation unless it's like late at night. But I'll let y'all know. I will do my best to schedule that one so that you can sign up for it and get notified when I go live. Yes. Yes, definitely catch the replay, catch it from the beginning, especially if you're a lateral thinker. Don't forget to catch the first video and the case study that I did last week. I'll put them into a playlist so that you won't have to go around searching for it. It'll be a creative thinking series. And this is going to be our series for the next few weeks, y'all. So I'm really excited to like really nerd out over these thinking styles. Oh, hey, Nisi. You gonna watch it again? Yeah, systems thinking. I like systems thinkers. I'm probably being like a little partial because I know that that's one of mine, but systems thinkers are so cool. And so that's another one that I feel like doesn't get as much shine and recognition as a creative. And so I love the example that I'm going to use because she oozes creativity. Like she couldn't call herself anything but a creative. So it's going to be really good. But yeah, that's it. If you do watch the replay, be sure to share it with somebody. Share it with somebody who you think would be interested. Share it with somebody that you think is a lateral thinker, because I feel like this series, not only is it cool to learn about yourself, but I feel like it's going to encourage people, and it's going to give them a new um a new way of thinking or working, or just give them a little bit of excitement again about what they're creating. So yeah, share the goodness with somebody. And that's what I got. That's what I got. Yes. Yeah, you got to find out your second. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, y'all. So I will see you on Thursday. I'll try to keep it it might be an evening time. And yeah, that's what I got for real. Y'all have a good night. Stay warm as you can. Stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.